Imperial Uncle. Chapter 32. We are in one of the caves halfway up a cliff face in a small mountain, at the edge of the capital. I come out of the cave holding Yunyu's sleeve. It is not yet dawn, the lantern's light attracts a swarm of winged insects and moths. Yunyu extinguishes the light as soon as we're outside. Hugging the cliff face, I lead him on a small trail. With the moonlight, we can just barely make out the path, and once we take a turn at the edge, it turns into a narrow, precipitous path winding upwards. One must take each step carefully, and yet not walk too slow. Higher up on the path, I turn back to look in the direction of the capital to find half the sky filled with the red glow of flames. I have no idea how things are in the capital. I wonder if His Majesty has taken care of Yuntang, Wang Qin, and the other rebels. I wonder if he's already dispatched soldiers to track down Yunyu. My estate servants know only that I've taken Yunyu towards the estate's interior, but some of were keeping an eye on Yunyu's attendants. They probably had no inkling at all that I've taken Yunyu to the water pavilion, and even if they guessed that there's a hidden passage inside the Prince Huai estate, it'll take them a while to find it. I don't know if Prince Zone has already told Kijhi about me. My running off with Yunyu is probably going to be hard for him to explain. Prince Zone is the only one who knows I'm a spy. I had no real power. It was hard for me to conspire with Yuntang and Wang Qin, and so I could only rely on outside support. But firstly, I couldn't let Kijhi know of this. There were too many spies in the palace and the word was bound to get out somehow, so I had no choice but to go to Prince Zone. None of my dad's former subordinates thought highly of me. They all believed I had managed to lose every last bit of prestige the Prince Huai title came with. Even if I told them about the rebellion, they wouldn't have believed me, but they'd at least give Prince Zone the time of day. If Prince Zone was investigating an armed rebellion, they were sure to believe it. On the face of it, Prince Zone was debating how best to punish the traitors within the government with His Majesty and the Moral Purity faction, but the one who had to do the actual work in the dark was me. In particular, I took another risk when I borrowed those 20,000 mounted troops. Both Chengbai and Li Jian are loyal to His Majesty to the core. Aside from Kijhi, no one can mobilize these 20,000 men, yet I needed it as bait to lure Yuntang and Wang Qin. For lack of other options, I said to Prince Zone, "Tell His Majesty that Prince Huai wants to rebel against the state, and intends to bring his military tally to Chengbai and Li Jian. Your Majesty, please order Chengbai and Li Jian to meet this ruse by going along with it for the time being." As long as I changed sides at the last moment during the attack on the palace, my innocence would have proven itself. But for the sake of saving Yunyu, I can't worry about that now. The trail ends at the top of the mountain, where there's a thatch hut. I push its door open, and fumbling about beneath the bed that's right across from the door, I drag out a wooden box. There's some clothes and shoes here. Take the mountain path down, and along the way you'll find places where you can buy a horse. Yunyu sounds quite calm. Where will I find help? I remove a drawing from my lapel and press it into Yunyu's hands. Follow the route on this map and the army will find you difficult to pursue. Hold onto the map. Yunyu folds up the map, and puts it away. I produce a jade ornament and press it into his hand also. You won't find any help until you reach Suzhu. Go to the Yuan Lane, and look for the Yuan San Tavern. Only by showing them this jade ornament can you safely reach that southwest location. Yunyu takes the jade ornament as well. Change your clothes. I'll be outside keeping watch. I come out of the thatch hut to stand at the cliff's edge. The eastern sky is starting to turn blue, it's nearly dawn. I turn the thought over and over in my mind, should I leave with Yunyu, or stay here? Yunyu will have to find out sooner or later that I'm a spy. As for what will happen once he finds out, that is something I've never been willing to consider. If I can live one more day, I will guarantee his safety for one more day, that's all I can think of. It doesn't matter to me if he chooses to hate me after this or to kill me after this. I've been a devoted subject. The throne is Kijhe's. The realm is also Kijhe's. Whenever Kijhe spoke to me, I always felt that there was more he was saying between the lines. His strange attitude made it impossible for me not to have suspicions of the sort I dare not have. Ultimately, Kijhe and myself are uncle and nephew, and ultimately, he is the emperor. Even if I know that Kijhe has other feelings for me outside of our familial relationship, I must pretend I don't know. I really have done my best, this time. I haven't let Kijhe down. The only thing left in my heart now is Suiya. On hearing footsteps behind me, I turn to find Yunyu. He stops at my side. He hasn't changed his clothes. My brows furrow. Suiya, why haven't you? Yunyu stares distantly at the horizon. Too bad all of our hard work has gone to waste. I wonder when we can make such an attempt again. I force a smile. Not in this lifetime, I'm afraid. Yunyu half turns to me. Do you mean to say that the backup plan isn't a hidden piece in the game? I can't tell him that I'm a spy, after all I merely sigh. This prince have staked everything in this single throw of the dice. Everyone who works for this prince is gone. The backup plan only serves to save our lives. I stare deep into his eyes. Suiya, from this moment on you and I can be commoners together, live in seclusion away from all this. What say you? Yunyu turns again to the horizon, and sighing ever so lightly he says to me, Your Highness, thank you for your favor. However, this servant. As I'm about to refute his polite form of address, Yunyu's figure shifts, there's a flash of white light, and the edge of a long sword, cooled by the chill of pre-dawn, lands flat on the juncture of my neck. I freeze in place. We're suddenly surrounded by the glow of many torches. In the forest behind the thatch hut, bundles of torches are lit seemingly all at once. A crowd layer upon layer thick appears as though by stage magic, and in the blink of an eye they have Yunyu and I surrounded. Yunyu holds a sword aloft, and his sleeve flutters on the windy mountaintop. Weapons raised, the soldiers move apart, and from the crowd two people slowly come forward. One of them is dressed in a dragon robe and wears an emperor's crown. It's my nephew Kijhe. The other is dressed in official ink blue, with a serene expression. It's Lu Tongyi. I can hear Lu Tongyi's voice. Traitor Jingwei, you're surrounded. Please surrender. Kijhe is looking in my direction. Somehow, there is a kind of ineffable urgency and worry in his gaze. Did Yunyu realize that I was a spy, and are Kijhe and Ransi putting on an act now in order to protect me? My hand twitches involuntarily, and I hear Kijhe blurting out in a panic, "You, watch out." My vision seems to sway. I didn't spot Prince Zong in the crowd. In the light of the flames, Yunyu's smile is exceedingly clear. Your Highness, will you surrender without a fight, or should I make use of my sword? Will you drag me off this cliff and take me down with you? Only then do I notice that the spot Yunyu and I are standing on is quite close to the edge of a precipice. All I have to do is hold onto him and fall, and we'll both go off the cliff. Kijhe says, slowly, Jingwei, seeing that you're our uncle, if you surrender, we will spare your life. The silence all around us seems to last a lifetime. I close my eyes, and heave a sigh. Even lowly insects cling to life. Your Majesty says you'll spare my life. I hope you can keep that promise. When I open my eyes again, I say to Yunyu, Chief Yun, it's rather dangerous for you and I to stand at the edge of a cliff. Now if either one of us isn't steady on our own feet and falls down head first, I may deserve it, but if you fall down there as well, then the sum total will leave us in the red. Let's both move back a bit. Your Majesty, if you're worried, you can tell a soldier to come forward and tie the servant up first before Chief Yun puts down his sword. Another moment of silence later, two soldiers quickly run to us, tying me up tightly. That sword is finally let down. I watch as Yunyu drops his sword and walks towards the crowd. Kijhe takes one step forward. The two of them stare at each other in the light of the flames. The look on Yun Yu's face and in his eyes fluctuates. I've never seen such an expression on him before. He takes yet another step forward. You, is your arm hurt? He raises a hand, and Yun Yu takes a step back, staring at him. Flames flicker in his eyes before he looks down again. Your Majesty, I've done everything I promised to do. I hope your Majesty will remember what you promised me. He stares right into his eyes. We never go back on my word. We promise you that we won't kill Yun Tang. You two are making eyes at each other and everyone is watching. Shouldn't both of you exercise some restraint? Thank you, your Majesty. As this servant is the son of a traitor, according to the law, should this servant not also be put away in the prison of the Ministry of Justice? He sighs. Why are you always like, and maybe he finds it inappropriate to finish his lament, so he swallows it, and says instead, the capture of the traitor Jing Wei is all due to you. We have always been fair when it comes to reward and punishment. Torchlight, soldiers, me, all of us are here as their backdrop, all of which feels a bit unnecessary. He turns to me, and a furrow appears between his brows. Jing Wei, we could never understood why you would conspire against us. Even if you succeeded, according to Confucian tradition you cannot take the throne. You're physically handicapped. To the victor goes the spoils has always been the law of the world. There are no rules that one must abide by. Since the ancestors could decide on some so-called rule like how the physically handicapped can't be emperors, why can't we change it now? Why can't a cripple like me be emperor? He lifts a brow. Imperial Uncle, it seems you've always had quite a high opinion of yourself. You flatter me, royal nephew. End chapter. Imperial Uncle. Chapter 33. There's an air of cold, moldy humidity in the Ministry of Justice's prison. My jail cell is unlike ordinary jail cells. Walk down a passage with a single door on each end, go through layer upon layer of guard stations, and at the end you'll reach 4 jail cells. I've been taken to the innermost cell. The cell itself, though, is rather spacious. Next to a wall, a bed has been laid out of bricks, and it has both a bedspread and a coverlet. A wooden table has been placed in the center of the room. There is only a hole in the wall for air circulation and no window, making it impossible to tell what time of day it is. A single oil lamp's been lit, its light dim and golden, but it's bright enough. There's a chamber pot in the corner, and no sort of thing for concealment whatsoever. There's no hiding anything when one relieves oneself. My outer garments have been stripped away and replaced with prisoner garb. My wrists and ankles have been fettered, the chain is as thick as a table leg, the other end of the chain that connects to my ankle is nailed fast on the wall, between the end of the bed and the chamber pot. The chain's length is well measured, it's long enough to go to sleep, use the chamber pot, and eat at the table. Any farther than the table, and it won't reach. After a half day spent in prison, with light still coming through the tiny air vent in the wall, a visitor's already come to see me. Surprisingly, the one who's come to see me is Chu Sun. I never expected him to come, and be the first one here. I'm a traitor, an insurgent recently caught. How did he manage the kind of connections needed to come see me? Chu Sun watches me distantly outside the bars. I get up from the bed, take a couple of steps toward him, the chain dragging along the ground behind me. Amy, what are you doing here? I'm a traitor who conspired against the state. You better go. In the dingy gloom of a lamp, Chu Sun's expression is inscrutable. Your Highness, looking at you right now reminds me of a saying. Startled, I ask, what? Slowly, Chu Sun answers, heaven's vengeance is slow, but sure. Your Highness, I've already given to Chancellor Lu the key to the hidden room off your bedroom where you were keeping secret letters and ledgers. I'd made a mold of your keys when I was at your estate. Did you think I couldn't have guessed, Prince Huai? In the end, just who was it that forced me to join the House of Dusk? Merely because I refused to ingratiate myself to your Highness, You snapped your fingers and I had no choice but to become a prostitute. I have nothing to say. I had no idea Chu Sun had always thought that to be the case. Since that's what you have surmised, wouldn't it have been more straightforward to simply kill this prince in bed? Chu Sun sneers. How could I have let you off so easily? I wanted to see how you meet the wrath of heaven, punished as you deserved. I'm a dead man to begin with. I should have died when I had to join the House of Dusk. For the past 2 years, I never thought myself human. I was biding my time doing all the things that no human ought to do, and finally I've managed to live to see this day. Once Chu Sun goes, and the light through the hole in the wall has gone and come again, my imperial nephews Kilai, Kichhin, Kikin, and Kifei come visit me one by one. Kifei and Kitten are the first ones here. More than a decade ago, when my dad had just passed away, I fell off a horse and broke my leg. I can still recall that Kitten and the other children used to follow me around often, calling out, "Imperial Uncle Cripple. Young Imperial Uncle Cripple," as they deliberately limped around me with each step I took. I was still young then and couldn't help but find it hard to listen to and hard to watch. So my mother said to me, "A child's malice is naivete too." One day I went to the palace with a cow horn belt ornament that my father brought back hanging at my side, so the little princes following me around stared at me impatiently. As I walked through a winding corridor, Kitten jumped out from behind a pillar and pounced on me, grabbed hold of that ornament and stared at me, big eyes wide open. "I want it." I untied the ornament. Kitten happily showed me his holy front teeth and reached out a hand. "Thank you, young Imperial Uncle Cripple." I raised my hand and moved the ornament out of his reach. "What do you call me?" Kitten stood on his tiptoes, but try as he might he couldn't reach it. He grabbed onto my gown and blinked. "Thank you, Imperial Uncle." I handed him the ornament. Kitten happily held it in his hands. He even let me pat his head. Mostly, I've won these imperial nephews of mine over little by little back then, just like that. Now I'm in the celestial prison, and still they've come to see me and call me Imperial Uncle anyway, regardless of the suspicion they may cast on themselves. Whether their sentiment is limited to politeness or not, it makes me feel it was all worth it. Kitten just keeps repeating himself over and over to me, "Imperial Uncle, how could you have thought yourself into such a corner as to join a rebellion?" Aside from this he probably can't think of anything else to say. Kifei sighs. After Uncle Chen Yuan was shot, he pled with His Majesty for leniency. He told His Highness brother that no matter what happens, he mustn't kill you. He took a sniping arrow for His Majesty. It was poisoned and half his life is at death's door right now. We don't even know if he's ever going to wake up. Royal brother will most likely go a bit easier on you for Uncle Chen Yuan's sake. Ah, so that's what happened. Prince Zong took an arrow and now he's in a coma. Looks like the heavens really are messing with me. We sit for quite a while, and then Kifei hems and haws and tells me after much consideration, "Imperial Uncle, Yun, and I thought you knew." I can find nothing to say to that. Kifei lowers his voice and sighs some more. "Imperial Uncle, why didn't you think about this before? Yun Tang is Grand Tutor. Yun Yu's always played with us since we were little. There was even talk of making Yun Yu be Royal Brother's study companion before, and it was probably at Brother's request. Unfortunately Yun Yu's a bit older so it didn't happen." Kitten interjects, "Never mind, Imperial Uncle, we played with him day in and day out too, and I never noticed anything. You're the only one sharp enough to notice. But it's obvious now that I think about it, didn't Royal Brother end up giving all those things Uncle gave him from his house to, you know who? It's true Yun Yu occasionally came over to my estate together with my imperial nephews, but I didn't really pay much attention then. Come to think of it, he never had much interest in decorative items. It may just be that all those things he kept staring at happened to be things that Yun Yu wanted. How surprising that it's actually a love that formed in childhood. It would be inappropriate to speak of this matter further. We sit together for a bit longer before Cafe and Kitten go. As they're leaving, Kitten says to me, "Imperial Uncle, Royal Brother gave his word that he wouldn't kill you. Just tell him everything and sincerely say you're sorry for everything. We'll plead for leniency some more and maybe. What's done is done, one ought not to speak of regrets." Cafe and Kitten give me another look, then sighing despairingly, they leave. The light disappears from the hole in the wall once more. As I'm dipping stale mantou slices in water to soften them, a procession of bodyguards arrived, with someone in the middle of them, and stop just outside the bars. They open the door. I set down the stale mantou and look up. Chancellor Liu. The minor functionary behind Lu Tongyi is carrying a long rectangular lacquer tray, and on the tray there are writing implements and a stack of paper. I laugh. "Chancellor Liu, you're not going to bother to judge this prince in a court of law before making this prince sign a confession?" Lu Tongyi motions the functionary to set the lacquer tray on the table. Then everyone else retreats outside the door, and Lu Tongyi sits down across from me at the table. "I see you plan to interrogate a traitor by night, Chancellor Liu." I remove the tray with the bowl from the table and set it on the floor, then I fix my clothes and sit up properly. "What do you want to know? Go ahead and ask." Lu Tongyi stares at me through the lamplight, and slowly he begins to speak. "I've never been able to figure out why you would conspire against the state, Your Highness." "Chancellor Liu, you may as well ask what you want to ask. You don't have to beat around the bush. Since you knew full well what I was plotting long ago, how could you not have guessed the reason?" He must have figured it out first before he was sure I would betray His Majesty. And only after having such certainty would he be able to devise a plan. When Yun Tang and Wang Qin proposed to conspire with me and when Yun Yu first approached me, Lu Tongyi wasn't Grand Chancellor yet. It may be because of the scheme he's devised that he was promoted to Chancellor. Wang Qin secretly sought the right to mobilize the Imperial Guards, so His Majesty realized he meant to rebel a long time ago. Later, Yun Tang's participation and his intention to involve Your Highness came to light through an investigation. At the time I was an official at the Court of Judicial Review, and I investigated this matter thoroughly under His Majesty's orders. So you put forward this plan, you set up this game of Go years in the making, using Yun Yu as a game piece. Lu Tongyi watches me quietly. A beat later, he nods slightly. "Correct. Having an agent on the inside was my idea." I heave a sigh. "If I had known, when this prince was pining over you, I should have made sure my head was clean, then cut it off as an offering to you, Chancellor Liu. It may have meant you'd have given me a second glance and I could have saved a lot of people some trouble." Lu Tongyi is quiet. "Your research into this prince's proclivities was quite thorough. Thank you, for setting up a Chusun for me. In order to be rid of a traitor like me, you both needed Yun Yu to play at socializing with this prince for several years, and you had to make Chusun join the House of Dusk. You've had me attended to quite well on the bed, and off the bed." Lu Tongyi's face finally takes on a different shade. "I wasn't the one who set up Chusun. Prince Yang's heart already rests in Mount Wu, what need has he then, to sleep talk of Jiangnan in his dreams? Thank you, Chancellor Liu, for bestowing those words on me. Prince Yang's heart already rests in Mount Wu, what need has he then, to sleep talk of Jiangnan in his dreams? That day in the water pavilion, what sort of intention did the Lu Tongyi who said those words to me say them with?" Lu Tongyi is silent for a long time. "It really wasn't me who arranged for Chusun. No matter how unscrupulous I may be, I wouldn't go so far as to use a scheme like that. There's really no point in bickering about the details. I'm already in prison, and I deserve everything I got. Only one thing remains a mystery to me: why did His Majesty and you know where that secret passage leads? Lu Tongyi and Yun Yu have only been to the water pavilion once. There's absolutely no way they could have discovered a secret passage there. Lu Tongyi tells me that Princess Consort Huai told the Dowager Empress about this secret passage long ago, and the Dowager Empress passed this information on to His Majesty. Presumably while Princess Consort Huai spent all her days in the water pavilion ruefully carrying on a clandestine love affair, she discovered the secret passage by accident. It may even be that the father of the child in her belly escaped via this very passage. I sigh. Such meticulous planning. It's true, it really was impossible for this prince to escape. I pick the water bowl up off the floor, and take a sip to moisten my throat. Chancellor Lu, didn't you say you want to know why I wished to seize the throne? I think I told you before that as a child I studied strategy books, and there were great expectations placed in me also. Then I fell of a horse and broke my left leg, the leg's gone lame, and all those expectations gone with it. Everyone thought me a total failure, everyone thought Jing Wei lost all the prestige the title Prince Huai ever had. So this prince wanted to do one big thing. This prince wanted everyone in the world to know that even someone with a handicap could accomplish great things. All that came before was merely a cripple's wishful thinking, a delusional bout of imagining my affections returned. I find myself suddenly fearful that Prince Zone will wake. At this very moment, I'm at least a traitor who tried to seize the throne, even if the attempt was unsuccessful. If the truth comes out, what is left for me to be? Nothing at all. A buffoon with nothing to his name. I take that stack of paper and riffle through it, pages and pages filled with charges. So many charges, no matter how you read them, they make me sound wicked beyond redemption. I dip the brush in ink and pen my formal name. It isn't easy, with monocles over my wrists. Once that is done I add my thumbprint too. I've admitted to whatever crimes I ought to admit to. You can rest easy and report back, Chancellor Lu. Lu Tongyi rises. The functionary comes in, collects the confession and picks up the tray. Lu Tongyi has risen, but he doesn't leave. Chancellor Lu, what else do you want to know? Your Highness, is there anything else you want to tell me? Nothing. I've said what I ought to say. Yet Lu Tongyi remains. I laugh. What, do you think I'm still hiding something? What Chief Yun managed to get from me was the last bit of backup plan I had. If you don't believe me, you can go ahead and check. Lu Tongyi says softly, I wasn't the one who set up Chu Sun. And I had no idea that our inside agent was Chief Yun, either. What difference does it make whether he did or didn't? Even if you did, so what? From the standpoint of morals and justice, you've done all you've done for the sake of capturing the traitor Jing Wei. Your actions were perfectly justified. Lu Tongyi is quiet again. Finally, he turns, and leaves. End chapter. Imperial Uncle. Chapter 34. I go to lie down on the bed, somehow ending up falling asleep in the end. By the time I open my eyes again, I no longer have any idea what time of day it is. Out of a ceramic jar, I pour myself a bit of water to drink. The prison guards come by, bearing trays of food, and they tell me Grand Chancellor Lu is the one who asked them to have it prepared, a single bowl of hot congee, a few side dishes. None of it is especially exquisite, but the flavor is satisfactory and all of it to my taste. If I'd known earlier, I'd have demanded to sign a confession the moment I came in. I could have saved myself a few meals of mantu. Having had my fill, I'm just sitting on the bed waiting for the food to digest when someone ambles towards me with a few bodyguards and a jailer in tow, stopping just outside the bars. It's Yun Yu. The guards open the cell door. Yun Yu comes in, and raises a hand to motion for all those following to remain outside. I smile at him. Chief Yun. Yun Yu smiles back. Your Highness. How have you been these last 2 days? He sounds just the same as always, like he's come to visit at my estate, no different than an everyday greeting. Well, naturally a prison cell is nowhere near as comfortable as a prince's estate. Yun Yu sits down on a small stool next to the table. Isn't that the truth, Your Highness? He stares at me, a hint of a smile caught in the corner of his lips. Your Highness signed the confession last night. His Majesty has already read it? I acknowledge his words with an O. At morning assembly the officials gathered urged His Majesty earnestly to execute your Highness as soon as possible. However, His Majesty has promised to let you live, so he won't so easily go back on his word. Right now, there are probably two paths for you to choose, but that must wait until this whole business is concluded, until Prince Zone wakes and gets better, until after the interrogation of everyone at Suzhou and the valley you spoke of. Presumably Yun Yu has come today on behalf of my emperor nephew to tell me what these two paths are, to show me my options. I laugh. I wonder what two paths they may be that he needs to make Chancellor Lu deliver the confession and order Chief Yun to show me the way. The utter irony of my royal nephew's arrangements. They're not nearly as ironic as what your Highness just stated. Of these two paths, one is to let your Highness live in a finely decorated, secluded location, just that the place may be a little smaller and the number of attendants waiting on you less than what you're used to. It may also be possible that you won't find their attention to your liking. Lifelong house arrest, then. Yun Yu continues, the second path would demand your Highness to spend much time reflecting on your wrongs, and to eventually achieve nirvana. You'll go to Pufang Monastery in the capital's outskirts, step onto the Western Paradise and leave all ties to samsara behind. Oh, so that one's to shave one's head and become a monk. I can let it all go, but I'm afraid there are too many young monks in that temple and their head abbot won't feel so safe about my living there. No need to worry, Your Highness. That particular cloister will be built just for you. There won't be anyone there to stir your mortal desires. That's still house arrest then, but it's just going bald before the house arrest, that's all. There may be more freedom of movement, I can roam anywhere in a temple and not be locked inside a house. So I can choose to exercise often but have to go vegetarian. These are difficult choices. Allow me to think on this at length. No hurry. It'll take some time yet before all the investigating is done. Take your time, Your Highness. He pauses, and raises a brow. Earlier, Your Highness made a sarcastic remark. You must be angry with me this time. I tell him quite sincerely, I'm not. There's little difference between what Yun Yu has done to me all along, and what I've been doing to him all along. From where he stands I'm wicked and he's righteous. It's only a matter of course for him to take these actions for the country, for Kijhe, for the sake of saving his father. He's done nothing wrong. He's been telling me to beware of Lu Tongyi this whole time, going so far as to make Lu Tongyi and Chu Sun play a duet together to suggest that the two of them knew each other. All this shows he meant to spare me. I just didn't manage to spot the forest for the trees, that's all. Angry at you, Chief Yun? How can I ever begin to get angry? And I add jokingly, how I recall that once I thought dying at Chancellor Liu's hands would be a worthy death. And now, I'm downright delighted that I was personally captured by Chief Yun himself. Yun Yu looks at me as though sighing in admiration. Your Highness's reputation as the capital's most romantic man is well deserved. On the side of his neck above the lapel, there seems to be a hint of a mark, but I can't see it clearly in the dim oil lamp's light. You only did what you've done to this prince because we're on different sides. If this prince was in your shoes he would have done the same. We each walk a path chosen by ourselves, there is no right or wrong to it. I remember you once telling me that we're each assigned a fate, and we ought to accept our fate. This prince's one downfall is how unwilling this prince is to accept my fate. This is how things ought to end for this prince. You're not the only one like that, Your Highness. My father is the same. My father kept thinking of His Majesty as a young ignorant emperor. He thought himself circumspect and far-sighted. Even though I'm his son I knew perfectly well that I could never have changed his mind. His expression is finally showing a smidgen of exhaustion and helplessness. It makes sense for Yun Tang to misread Kijhe. He's the grand tutor. It's always easy for the one who looks after a child as he grows into an emperor to keep thinking of him as that same artless child. How could he not know that few things in the world change as swiftly as children? You may be the only person who thoroughly understands Kijhe. At least you were able to save your father's life. He just hasn't turned his thinking around yet. He'll come to the realization eventually that you did all this to save his life. Yunyu shakes his head. He's not like your highness. He doesn't have good gamesmanship like you, nor is he able to look on the bright side like you. Thank you for your praise, Chief Yun. How about this? If Grand Tutor Yun and I end up being shut away in the same place, then I'll advise him that one must be mature about such things as success and failure. Yunyu is laughing once more. You jest, your highness. Why would he ever shut you and my father in the same place? Needless to say, this he speaks of must be Kijhe. I smile. Speaking of jests, there's something else I must say. Next time you're in a sulk with someone, don't go drinking too much again and vent by joking around with just anyone you find. This isn't something you should trifle with. See, if it's someone as prone to flattering himself as this prince, then he'll come confess his love to you before long. Wouldn't that be troublesome? That day, at the Moonlight Pavilion, I thought Yunyu seemed to have had something on his mind. Turns out I was right. Looks like my judgment was correct, after all. Though I've never seen sincerity firsthand, hypocrisy I've met plenty, I can tell them apart. Yunyu's expression freezes a beat before he forces a smile. You really are still mad at me after all, your highness. As to that, I did go too far that time. I drank a bit too much. I also regretted it somewhat afterwards and felt too embarrassed to come to your highness's estate for fear of awkwardness. Then I must thank my royal nephew for leaving this task on your shoulders, otherwise wouldn't it have meant you'd never come over again? If I really were mad at you, I wouldn't be speaking of the incident this way. Yunyu is my nephew-in-law of sorts now, so as his elder I must give him a few words of advice. I pause a moment before continuing on. But there is some advice I must still give you. Go ahead and treat this like I'm just being nosy. You tend to say and do whatever you feel like sometimes, and your abilities draw too much attention. After all, you're still young. That royal nephew of this prince doesn't have a mild temperament either, so you're bound to fight sometimes. You need to be more flexible. With your father in his current predicament, things will inevitably become more difficult for you. Try to keep the big picture in mind and not sweat the small things. There are no paths that one can't trod, and no river one can't ford. Yunyu stares at me in silence. Momentarily he seems to smile, then he sighs. Why is it that in the end it's your highness who's advising me instead? I put on a stern face. Probably because this prince's fate really is bound up with the Pufang monastery. Yunyu stays for a while longer before rising. Then I'll be leaving for now. I'll come by to see you in a few days. I hope you'll make the best of things, your highness. I watch him until he's at the door before calling out, Suiya. Yunyu turns around and looks at me, an eyebrow raised. Is there anything else, your highness? It's nothing. Thank you for speaking with me. Yunyu smiles. If your highness is willing to meet with me, I'll come over again in a few days. I nod. Sure. Once Yunyu goes, I sit for a while, eat another meal, and lie down on the bed for a spell. I wait until the rays of light gradually fade from the air hole in the wall before rising, and I call out at the prison guard. Could you pass a message on for me? This prisoner would like to see Grand Chancellor Lu. Annoyance written all over his face, the guard says to me, Prince Huai, your highness, do you think you're the same person you were before? Grand Chancellor Lu is the busiest person in our government. Aside from His Majesty, he may even be going over documents at this hour still. You think just because you yammer for him from the celestial prison the Lord Chancellor will come right over? Well, this prisoner just happened to recall that there were some things about this uprising that I haven't yet told Chancellor Lu. Since he's busy, let's forget it. but maybe this prisoner would have forgotten by the time tomorrow rolls around. I've barely finished speaking and the guard is already gone like a gust of wind. Lu Tongyi arrives around 2 hours later. He probably rushed over from home, and hasn't changed into formal court dress, clad in a jade-colored long garment. I take a sip of water, and wait for him to stop in front of the table before speaking. Chancellor Lu, I'm sorry. I don't have anything to say about the whole uprising business. I only said that because there are some things I need your help with, and I was afraid the jail guard would refuse to pass it on. The knot between Lu Tongyi's brows relaxes. It's no trouble. Thank you for the meals today, Chancellor Lu. That's the way it ought to be. The day before yesterday, they intended it as a slight. I wonder what you needed to see me for, Your Highness. I moved to stand. It's like this. Chief Yun came by today and said His Majesty's temporarily decided on 2 different plans for this prince. You should know that already. Such arrangements are already quite merciful to me, but after I thought about it all day I feel that neither house arrest nor becoming a monk at Pufang Monastery is for this prince. That's why I wanted to ask your help, Chancellor Lu. I know that you have a bustling schedule, and I really shouldn't be adding to it, but after much consideration I couldn't come up with anyone else I can entrust this task with. Please agree to help me. In the lamp's light, Lu Tongyi's eyes are still so clear, rather like how clear they were the first time I saw them beneath the moon, so many years ago. Please go ahead and tell me, Your Highness. Though I may not be able to help, I'll certainly try my best. Chancellor Lu, with those words I can rest assured. I'm not standing far from Lu Tongyi. The flickering light of the oil lamp is rich with silhouettes. Everything this prince want to entrust you to do is nothing more than trifles. Suppose Prince Zone wakes, His Majesty doesn't seize my estate, and if there's anything left over that Prince Dai wants, he can have it all. As for the estate itself, if he wants to sell it off, he can go ahead and sell it. As an aside, tell him that's all there is. If he spends it all he won't be able to borrow anything else from me anymore. I don't know if this whole affair has implicated Hansi. When he leaves to become an Alliance husband, please tell him congratulations on my behalf. Other than that, there's not much else. Putting my hand on the corner of the table, I let it support my weight, and cough a couple of times. And lastly, Chief Yun came by today, and I didn't manage to say this to him and Chu Sun as well. Please pass this message on for me. Just say, you should put more value in yourself. There is no shortage of solutions. Don't degrade yourself so easily again. Lu Tongyi goes pale suddenly and he throws himself forward to grab me by the arms. You. He turns. Someone help. Get a doctor. I take hold of his sleeve. Chancellor Lu, as for the uprising. I've said whatever I ought to say. There's nothing else. In the glow of yellow lamplight, I'm somehow able to discern pallor on Lu Tongyi's face. Maybe my vision is already starting to blur. Please, have mercy, Chancellor Lu. Let me go in peace. Don't call for anyone. But Lu Tongyi continues calling for help, a buzzing, ringing in my ear. The taste of copper spills more and more from my mouth. I force myself to gather enough strength to say, there's no point even if you call them. This is what I prepared for a very last way out, so naturally nothing can save me. I wonder if my words were effective, as Lu Tongyi's voice does gradually grow quieter, and though his sleeve is still in my hand, and he still has my arms clasped tight, he seems to grow farther away from me as well. My legs are a bit wobbly, and my eyelids a bit heavy, as though I'm already lying down on the bed. The fabric is slipping out of my hand. I cannot seem to keep my hold on it. Struggling with all my might, I cling to a last shred of consciousness. Rancy. My arms, where he's holding onto me, hurt a little. Lu Tongyi is still listening to me. Seems calling him Rancy is useful after all, when it's important. With what I am, it won't be easy to bury me. It'll only make things difficult a cremation is better, just take the ashes and scatter them somewhere, a mountain, a river, and everything will be clean. Once I finish putting this sentence together, I no longer have the strength to make another sound. In a trance, I can't tell if I was dreaming before or if I'm dreaming now. Delicate snow kept coming down. In the garden of the Prince Huai estate, little Yun Yu overturned the teacup on the little heir apparent's knee. He stood there looking dazed, gripping a plum blossom branch, and he saw the child clad in python-embroidered robes tell him, "We are fine. Don't scold him or punish him." Yun Yu's eyes went right round, snow drifted into the gallery, gathering on the plum blossom branch in his grasp. The moon was as bright as a silver mirror, the pond was filled with a boundless sky of stars. Young Lu Tongyi sat beneath the gallery, and with the light of the lanterns he focused all his attention on reading page after page of the volume of Epic of Red Beard in his hands. A thick fog rolled in the blink of an eye night had turned to day, and a youthful principal scholar clad in red with a flower in his hair stood there instead. A pond as green as jade had faded away, the garden was filled with a profusion of brightly blooming crepe myrtle. I very much want to ask Lu Tongyi if he remembers the last line in Epic of Red Beard. From time immemorial, how much sacrifice given in the name of friendship, how much passionate heroism is nothing more than a jug of good wine, a bout of deep intoxication, and a night of good dreams. End chapter.